Yo, 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 happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everyone. My name is Justin Moore, founder of Creator Wizard, where I teach you how to find and negotiate your dream sponsorships. Back at you for another live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about preparing for 2025 brand deals. If you can believe it, we are almost halfway through November, and it's not too early to start thinking about what your Q1, what your quarter one sponsorship strategy might look like. So as always, with these live streams, my time is your time. So any questions that you have around sponsorships, pitching, negotiating, that whole thing, we're going to be getting to those a bit later in the stream. So for now, let me know where you're tuning in from. I am going live across YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, X. I always forget what other ones, maybe Facebook, and excited to see you all here. Let me know where you're tuning in from. We've got Jason. Yes, 2 weeks in a row. Yes, I'm back on the routine, which is very, very exciting now that I am fully moved in. Still, getting my office all set up, which is fun / stressful. A lot going on. I think I mentioned last week on the stream that I'm doing 100 podcasts, or the goal is to do 100 podcasts in 76 days, which is in advance of my book launch, Sponsor Magnet, on January 21st of next year. So I'm doing my darndest to get spread the word about this thing. So we've got Bradalius tuning in on Instagram, Hopscotch the Globe. We've got Semyon. What's going on, Semyon? We've got Rodrigo in Motion tuning in. We've got Tashi Talia. Good to see you all here. So as I mentioned, we're talking about preparing for 2025 brand deals. A couple things I want to touch on today. And the first one is, in my opinion, if I was sitting here listening to this, and I was trying to think, okay, like what should be my focus as I head into next year, it really would be probably shifting to, if you're still pitching brands right now, it would be shifting to pitching quarter one campaigns rather than holiday campaigns. I've mentioned this before quite a bit, that a lot of times brands, when they are planning out their holiday strategy, this is something that's happening 3 to 6 months in advance, sometimes even longer in advance, especially if it's a consumer brand. The holiday time period, the quarter four time period, is one of the most critical marketing activities that they have throughout the year. And so they're planning that campaign out. They're allocating those budgets out way far in advance. Not to say that it can't happen, but if I were, pitching brands right now, I would not be focusing on holiday. I would be focusing on quarter one. And it might be possible that you reach out with a quarter one idea, and then they say, actually, we're still running some holiday campaigns. Is that something that's interesting to you? And of course, you can pivot to that, which is great. But that would not be what I lead with. One of the things I learned, honestly, I was pretty ignorant to this before I started my influencer agency. I just didn't really quite understand how budgetary planning cycles work. And this is something that I got intimately familiar with because it's something called the RFP process, or the request for proposal process. So there's two separate things. So you've got a budgetary planning cycle that happens internally at the brand. But then once that brand decides that they want to engage external partners, i.e. agencies usually, to run, let's say, an influencer marketing campaign, then they will issue what's called a request for proposal, an RFP, to those external partners. And there's always timelines associated that are tied to their budgetary planning cycles. So if a very large brand is planning, let's say, their 2025 strategy, probably they would have issued RFPs for 2025, whether it's Q1, Q2, or even sometimes, later in the year, let's say they would have issued that RFP maybe 3-6 months ago. It's crazy, right? I've told this story that the furthest in advance that I got RFP'd for a brand campaign when I ran the agency was 14 months. So they had contacted us in January of that year for a campaign the following March, not that March of that year, but the following March. So 14 months in advance. So it's crazy. But again, when you're spending tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising, which some of these very, very large consumer brands do, it's really complex to actually deploy that amount of marketing capital. It could be really challenging to actually do that. So you need to be really strategic. You have to engage a lot of different partners to help you actually do that. And so understanding how brands' planning cycles work, not all brands, their fiscal year is not all of them are January to December. A lot of brands actually are June to or July to June. And so it just kind of depends on the brand. But like starting to learn how this stuff works and how far in advance they plan for this type of thing is pretty important. And so, and even when you start to reach out, if you're pitching brands right now and you're pitching Q1, that may even be, too far behind. They may, be planning out to Q2 of next year already for, spring campaigns and things like that. So again, you oftentimes won't know this when you're reaching out to a brand, but usually what I say is like best practice is pitch at least 3 months in advance when you're reaching out to brands. So that would be my first piece of advice if you're starting to think about what your 2025 strategy looks like. TC is me says your new office looks nice. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm still trying to dial it in, but yeah, I got this really cool looking storage thing over here. You can't see it; it's off screen, but I'm starting to organize a lot of my wires and microphones and all this stuff. So I appreciate that. We've got My Office Cooking tuning in on Instagram. Nikki Bum Bum, what's up? Walking with Meredith, Paul Untold. We've got Monk tuning in on YouTube. We've got the In Between. What's going on? We've got GGTV, who said, I was thinking about this subject right now, to be honest. Thank God. Yes. All right. Well, you're here. You're in the right place. Glad to see you here. So for those of you who are just tuning in, we're talking about preparing for 2025 brand deals. The next thing I wanted to talk about related to that is how important it is to develop a pitching habit. A lot of people who enter my universe or enter my orbit do so because they're having an active issue with a sponsor. So a sponsor has already come inbound to them and, that the creator doesn't know how much to price the deal, or they're having issues with the negotiation, or they're having issues with the execution phase and things like that. This has actually been my experience that the majority of creators are quite reactive when it comes to sponsorships. They're just reacting to a brand reaching out to them. And this is how they first go down the rabbit hole of my content. But if you've followed me for a while, you know that I'm kind of a squeaky wheel or a broken record about this topic in particular, which is how important it is to develop a pitching habit. Because, you have no control over when or how frequently brands are going to reach out to you. And so this is why oftentimes that people think that sponsorships are not a predictable income stream as a creator. It's because, yeah, of course, if you're sitting on your hands waiting for brands to reach out to you, how can you build a business on that? How can you have a sustainable income for your family with sponsorships if you're just waiting for brands? It'd be like if you owned a brick and mortar, storefront, a location. If you were constantly waiting for people to walk by your foot traffic, to walk by your store, that'd be a big problem, right? You have to go out there, and especially if you're in a location that doesn't get a lot of foot traffic, you are advertising on Facebook, or you are advertising in the Penny Saver, or the local, you're sending out mailers through the US mail or whatever, USPS if you live in the States, things like that, right? You're actually actively marketing. And so the same philosophy applies if sponsorships is part of your revenue stream as a creator, that you have to do those similar outbound exercises to solicit business, right? And so, in fact, this is one thing that I'm going to be talking about in my forthcoming book, Sponsor Magnet, which comes out on January 21st, is the importance of this this outbound prospecting activity, how critical that is to running a business. And so, whether it's allocating one day a week or one day every 2 weeks to actually, set aside time from your actual content generation activities to, have that be the day that you are reaching out to brands for the first time, or you're nurturing brands that that you pitched, a couple weeks ago, or whatever it is. You're starting to kind of build this muscle where it's just something that you do in your business. It's an activity that you do consistently, and it's never something that you miss. It's so easy. There's so many positive benefits that come with creating this habit, because one other thing that I've seen happen is that people will create the habit. They'll get responses, which is exciting, but then they'll stop. They're like, "Oh, okay, this is great. It worked." These I'm starting to engage with these brands. We're entering into a collaboration, and then they just take their foot off the gas and they stop, going out and reaching out to brands anymore. And then they get into this situation 2-3 months down the line where they're like, "Oh man, all of a sudden my pipeline is empty. I have no active leads or active ongoing negotiations." I'm back in the same place, right? And so it's this philosophy is like you're always pitching. It's just part of your creator business that you're constantly reaching out and pitching brands. And of course, one of the really positive downstream repercussions of developing this pitching habit is that eventually you're going to sow enough seeds that deals that you executed a year ago, 2 years ago are going to come, you're going to enter those into your nurturing kind of process, and those are going to start to come back, and you're going to start getting more repeat business. And this is kind of the holy grail for a lot of people is, wow, you don't all want to, have to be constantly pitching these one-off collaborations. How can I, kind of get some of these like recurring partnerships where I'm not having to do all these pitches constantly. And this is, I've said before, the majority actually of the deals that my wife and I are doing on a consistent basis are from, relationships that we've nurtured over the years. And in fact, this is one of my next points is that, as you're thinking through your 2025 brand deal strategy, when you are pitching these brands, you can actually make a concerted effort to shift from pitching one-off deals to recurring deals. Let me caveat that though. Basically, it can be quite challenging to pitch a recurring deal to a brand who doesn't know who you are. Because, a lot of brands have been burned by bad experiences working with creators who suck. Basically, they're not responsive. Their work is low quality. They kind of talk themselves up a lot to try to get the deal. And then once that brand enters the execution phase with that brand or with that creator, the brand realizes, wow, this person actually is not a great partner. That was not good. And so they are very nervous to enter into a long-term or recurring deal with the creator who they don't know because they just don't know what it's going to be like working with them. They've just been burned too many times. And so that's the caveat I'll give is that sometimes it can be challenging to convince a brand of that. However, if you can provide a compelling enough pitch where the thrust of that pitch would inherently require multiple touch points, it's a lot easier to convince the brand that that's important. So for example, if you are a creator at the beginning of your career and you don't have a lot of experience, you haven't done a lot of deals, one of the things I talk about is how you can pitch a brand. You do kind of this holistic analysis of the brand's social presence. And the thrust of your pitch when you reach out is kind of UGC focused. You're saying, hey, it seems like you're not posting on, short form, or Instagram or TikTok very often. You're posting once every 2 weeks and the videos that you are posting kind of suck. You're not saying that, obviously. You're kind of wrapping it up in kind of a nice packaging. But you're saying, hey, I can create some content for you on autopilot, 5, 10, 15 videos, shorts, a month or something like that. It's going to be $5,000 a month for the next 6 months or something. What do you say? And so the thrust of the pitch is mainly, I'm going to help you create a more compelling content strategy. I'm going to help you tell your brand story in a more compelling way. That's the pitch, rather than this one-off kind of campaign-focused approach. Not that either are wrong, but if you actually are thinking about your 2025 strategy and you're saying, I want to do more recurring deals versus one-offs, then try to make the thrust of most of your pitches be recurrent inherently, recurrent in nature. Does this make sense? Drop a 1 in the chat. Drop a praise hands emoji if you're hearing me, if this is making sense. Megan makes money. I see you in the Instagram chat. Learn, grow, invest. I see you. Mindfully Dre. Be naturally lovely. Liz Tieran. Drop it in the chat. Give me the diamond emoji, the mind blown emoji guy. Let me know that you're hearing me here and this is helpful. We've got, wow, answer was in time of the question. Hey, Justin, do you think it's best to pitch some special content and always have something new, or you just kind of try to score some recurrent sponsorship? There we go. I just answered that. Boom. I love it. Love to see it. We've got Mecca tuning in on YouTube. Love to see that as well. So if you're just tuning in now, we're talking about preparing for 2025 brand deals. I've talked about how important it is to shift all of your pitches to be more focused on Q1 and Q2 campaigns right now. If you're reaching out mid-November, we talked about the importance of developing a pitching habit where you allocate time on your calendar every week or every 2 weeks where you're constantly reaching out to brands. We talked about how you can shift from pitching one-off deals into recurrent deals. And now I want to talk about how critical it is to reduce platform risk. So, if you're in the US, you know that there's a looming deadline that TikTok has to sell their majority stake in their U.S.-based subsidiary by January of 2025. And a lot of people have wondered, like, is this thing going to actually happen? Obviously, there's been some very significant political changes that have happened over the last week or two. And we now know that Donald Trump is going to be our next president in the U.S. And it's kind of bizarre because he was the one who was really very loud about championing this kind of ban, several years ago. And now it seems like he's kind of changing his tune on the campaign trail. So it remains to be seen whether or not he's going to dissolve this ban or get rid of the ban or what's going to actually happen. But regardless of that, I mean, we're sitting here a month or two away from what could potentially be an absolutely devastating move for many, many creators who have built up, a presence on a platform like TikTok. There's just no way in heck that you should be that the future of the longevity of your business should be hinging on the political winds shifting in Washington if you're a US-based creator. There's no way that makes sense at all, right? And so I've talked about this. I feel like I've been beating the drum about this, about how critical it is to own your audience. You've heard me talk about how important it is to have something like an email list, have a newsletter where you have a direct connection with your audience. Not only, if something like this happens where you lose access to, a social media platform, or you get demonetized on something like YouTube, or, you get hacked or something, like there's any number of things that can happen to these platforms. An email list is something that you own, right? You will always be able to have that direct connection. And not just that, the reach that you can get with an email list is so massively outweighs your organic reach that you can get on these social media platforms. I've shared this before, that my average open rate so I have about almost 35,000 creators on my newsletter. And if you're not on it, by the way, creatorwizard.com/join. What have you been doing? 35,000 creators on there. My average open rate is 40 to 45% on those emails. So if you do some quick math, 40 to 45%, every single email, people are opening that. Contrast that with my average organic reach on my social media platforms. Let's say Instagram, for example. I've got about 11,500 people on Instagram. I looked at one of my recent posts. My reach on that post was 300 people, or 250 people, which is basically 2 to 3% of my audience, which is abysmal. Right. And so, yes, you could argue that my content sucks, right? Or I'm not, I'm not making good enough content to reach people. But you could make the same argument with my newsletters, right? But the email inbox is it's inherently a much different user behavior, where people 40 to 45% of those people on average are opening every single email. Okay. Do the comparison, right? I think there's no comparison. Okay. And so, holy cow, just real quickly want to highlight Brilliant Markets in the chat here just got a brand deal today with 10 subscribers. Holy cow. Come on. We're going to do some golf claps here in the chat for Brilliant Markets. Come on. Holy cow. Give it up for Brilliant Markets here. This is insane. And you know what? I'm going to need you, Brilliant Markets. I'm going to need you to let us know in the chat. How did that happen? Give us a little bit of insights here. How did you get a brand deal with 10 subscribers? Love to hear it. Yes. Love to see. We've got Charisse in the chat. We've got all the love sending your way. Love to see it. Okay, so for those of you who are just tuning in, we're talking about preparing for 2025 brand deals. In just a moment here, we're going to dive into the Q&A. So if you have any questions around brand deals, negotiations, collaborating with brands, diversifying to various platforms to aid with your sponsorships, drop it in the chat. Going to be diving into the Q&A very shortly. One thing I was going to mention here that I forgot to when we were talking about developing a pitching habit, I mentioned my book is coming out, Sponsor Magnet. It's coming out on January 21st. But I also have my very first in-person event that is happening March 16th to the 19th in San Antonio, Texas. It's called Sponsor Games. And if I can't even begin to explain to you how excited I am about this event. My team and I are working very diligently, putting this event together. And essentially we have turned my 8-step sponsorship wheel framework into 8 games that you will play to actually master the concepts. So, my 8 steps are pitch, negotiate, contract, concept, produce, feedback, analyze, or publish and analyze. So those are the 8 steps, and we're turning all 8 of those into different games. And essentially there's going to be finalists who will, compete in you get a chance to compete in the culminating sponsor tank event at the end, where you will actually have a chance to pitch real influencer marketing managers at brands for a chance to win a grand prize of cash and other prizes. So it's going to be so much fun. We're pulling out all the stops for the event, and honestly, the event is going to be very, very different because there's no keynotes, there's no panels, there's no workshops, there's nothing for you to fall asleep at like that. I basically sat down and did an analysis of like all the things that I hate about most conferences, and I'm doing the opposite of all those things. For example, most food absolutely sucks at events. So we're going to go balling out on like some awesome catered food. So there's just going to be like a lot of different touches like that. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am about this event. It's like sponsorships are the number one revenue stream for like a huge amount of creators and influencers and businesses. And there is no in-person event devoted to this. That has never made any sense to me, right? And so I was like, this is the event that I've always wanted to exist, right? And so I actually think that there are some early bird tickets still available. So you can get $400 off. So if you want to come, normal price of the ticket is $1,000. It's at $600 right now I think there's like 13 or 14 early bird tickets left. So what the heck are you waiting for? Bianca so kindly from my team dropped the URL sponsorgames.com, and you can get $400 off your ticket. What are you doing? Come on. I would absolutely love to see you there. Okay. So drop it in the chat. Who's going to sponsor games? Who is going to sponsor games? Anyways. Let's see. Brilliant Market said, I listened to you, took on the information months ago, building my portfolio all of 2024, didn't make any offers until today. All right. Well, love to see it here. Congratulations. Brilliant Markets. Love to see it. All right. So, before we get into Q&A, I just want to say one more thing about, how to prepare kind of for your 2025, brand deal strategy, which is basically you have to trust yourself. I think this is a very big obstacle for a lot of creators that maybe don't have a ton of experience. Maybe this is you listening, that maybe you feel a bit of imposter syndrome. You've heard me say before, like, I say, oh, you're not just a creator, you're a consultant. And you're sitting here thinking like, okay, that's a great soundbite, Justin, but I don't feel like a consultant. I don't feel like I know a lot. It's kind of intimidating. Getting on a phone, on the phone call with a brand, or it's kind of intimidating just, feeling as though, like what business do I have giving advice to a brand who may have, 10 people on their marketing team, or they have an agency to help them with this type of thing. What do I know? And what I want to assure you of is that you know a lot. Trust me, I've been in the boardrooms with these big brands and these big advertisers, and they oftentimes do not have their fingers on the pulse of what is working on a daily basis on these platforms. Case in point, one of the things that caused short form platforms like TikTok to grow so much were things like the remix culture, the stitching culture, the trending sounds culture. Those are kind of cultural, like being involved in those types of fleeting moments you know that those things last, they don't last for very long, right? Oftentimes a trending sound might blow up within 24 to 72 hours and then it's gone, right? And so most brands do not have the agility to be able to capitalize on that. They have so many layers of approval and decision makers that would be, especially for these large incumbent brands, there's no way that they could turn around their take on the trending sound or their take on, this moment. There's just no way that they could do it. And so if you're if you can be their kind of extremely online external counterpart where you say, hey, I'm going to create a Slack room where it's me and your marketing team, and I'm going to be your extremely online consultant where I'm saying like, hey, this sound is is trending right now. There's only 5,000 people that have made videos for it, but in the next 24 hours, there's going to be 100,000. Like you know that the velocity of some of those trends, you could actually tell the brand like, hey, here's how you could do your own spin, your own take on this thing. And in fact, guess what? I could make the content for you. I could do the video for you. You know how much they pay you for something like that? I keep saying this idea, and someone is going to take me up on this and pitch this to a brand. I absolutely know it, but like this is there's a lot of value in things like this. You don't think I'm serious, but I am. Again, I've been in these rooms and people underestimate how difficult it is for brands to navigate the fast-moving nature of social media these days, okay? Gone are the years where you could workshop a static Instagram carousel post for 2 months, which is, I've heard so many anecdotes. I get DMs all the time from people working on the brand side, people working on the agency side, and they're saying, I wish I could like engage with this post and tell you how right you are, but I don't want my clients seeing it or whatever. But it's like, these are real things. These are real obstacles that a lot of these more traditional brand people working inside these more traditional brands that they come up against. So anyways, so trust yourself, get rid of the imposter syndrome. You know a lot, trust me. And so start flexing that expertise during these interactions with brands. Okay. Liz Tiernan says in the Instagram chat, I've learned a lot from you. Thank you so much for sharing all this information. You're so very welcome. I'm glad to hear that. We've got Grounded in Maine podcast tuning in, Andre Panos. We've got Amy Garelick, The Falcon Eats, Mary Posa, Satoshi Printer. Good to see you here. Cherise said, I just finished my first paid brand deal last week. I learned a lot for next time, but my post-campaign report was fire. Thank you, Justin and Brand Deal Wizard. Holy cow, let's go here. Everyone, come on. Give it up for Cherise in the chat. Here we go. I got to screenshot this one. Cherise, I'm so proud of you. Hold on. Here we go. I'm going to screenshot that. Love to see it here. Cherise, can you give a bit more color about how this deal came together? Is this a brand that came inbound to you? Is this a brand that you pitched? The very first brand deal is an absolute milestone. It's just such a validating milestone. This is crazy, but I've had this idea that I want to create some sort of award or some sort of plaque or something, kind of like how YouTube has their play buttons for people when they get their first paid brand deal. Is that a stupid idea? Is that a cool idea? I just feel like it would be so cool to like get your name emblazoned on it or like I don't even know. Is this the craziest, stupidest idea? I of course lose money on it, but like, I don't know. I feel like that would be cool. Would you feel proud to display something like this if you got your first paid brand deal? I don't even know how I would like verify this. It would probably have to be on the honor system or something. With YouTube, it's like, it's clear that, you got 100,000 subscribers or million subscribers or whatever. But with a first paid brand deal, I don't know if I would need to verify it. I don't know. I actually did look into it a little bit, and I think it was going to be like $30 or $40 plus shipping. So like, $50 per plaque, something like that, which is not nothing. That's kind of a lot of money. Brilliant Market says, do it. Why not? Well, why not is like, it would be very expensive to do it. But I don't know, somehow, I don't know. I love this community that we're all building together, and something like that feels like, I don't know. It feels like fun. Bianca, can you make a note? Bianca's on my team here in the chat. Can you make a note? How could we do this? I don't know. There's something weird, a bit weird about brand deals or about people bragging or flexing that they got brand deals publicly. This is one thing that I found is that people are more than happy to share like, their follower milestones, right? It's like, I hit 10,000 followers or I hit 100,000 followers, they get a plaque and things like that. But somehow when money is involved, people feel a bit leery, a bit more hesitant to like flex stuff like that. And so I don't even know if this would just like go into people's closets and they'd never show it. Like, I don't know. I just don't know. So yeah, let me know in the chat, what you guys think. Yeah. So Jason Vaughn in the had a comment. This is something I've thought about as well. Maybe create a series of awards for people based on how much money they're bringing in. So your first 10,000 in brand deals, your first $100,000 a year. So I've thought about your first paid brand deal. I've thought about your first your first 4-figure deal, your first 5-figure deal. There's like organizations that have milestones like this. They kind of gamify the process. So I don't know. I gotta think through that. I think it's cool. I think it's fun. Yeah, I don't know. Baldy Rudy says that would be really cool. Rudy, okay. I'm so glad you're here, bro. You may not have seen this. I think I didn't tag you or something, but someone joined my course, or maybe they subscribed to my newsletter. I think they joined the program. How did I hear about this person? I can't remember exactly how this happened, but I asked someone recently how they found out about me and Creator Wizard and all that, and they said Reddit, and I was like, Reddit? That's like, I'm an avid Reddit consumer, but I rarely post on there. And there's a few pretty active subreddits, related to YouTube. Like there's a partnered YouTube subreddit and a couple other ones. But someone was like, oh yeah, I found about you in some random like Reddit thread. And I was like, could you potentially like send me those threads? I would love to read them. And they sent like 3 different threads that referenced me. And Rudy, you were one of the people that gave me a shout out in some random comment, like 100 comments deep. And this person ultimately decided to join my program because of you. So, there was like several threads that they sent me, but you were one of the people. And so I wanted to say thank you for that. That's very, very kind of you to do. And also Reddit, amongst every other platform, is the most inherently skeptical of stuff like this, of like the type of stuff that I do, or just like, I don't know. Somehow I feel like there's like this like thing on Reddit where people are just like inherently distrustful of like people selling knowledge, education courses, coaching, things like that. And so it just felt cool to see kind of like a very organic word of mouth praise from someone like you. That really meant a lot to me, on somewhere like Reddit, where they're inherently distrustful of people like of this type of thing. So anyways, that was very cool. I appreciate you. And yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Like I didn't set out. So I was talking about this, I think, on a podcast recently, that like, I didn't create this business to make money. is probably obvious, because for the very first year of business, you literally could not pay me. I had literally no, coaching. I had no courses. I had nothing. You literally could not pay me. And so, a more astute business person would have been like, I'm monetizing from day one, but that was never like, I'm going to get a bit deep here. But those of you who know kind of the backstory of this business, I started it in the ashes of a tremendous failure of my influencer agency. So right around when COVID happened, it crushed my agency and I had to lay off all my employees. It was like, I have a video on my YouTube channel. It kind of goes into the detail about that. But I was in like a super, super low place emotionally and psychologically and just professionally. It was just it was like one of the lowest points of my life. For a lot of reasons, but when I started creating content around sponsorship stuff and seeing how much it helped people, I try not to get emotional. It just felt like I finally had purpose again. And so I didn't want to like screw that up. It was more important to me to feel helpful again after that tremendous like trauma of losing the business. And so I really had no interest in like monetizing it, as early as I potentially could have. And so that ethos of service has carried through to every decision that I've made about this business. And surprise, surprise, like the positive downstream repercussion of being heart-led and having a service mindset has led to a really successful business. I think that that's not an accident. That's not a surprise where you are truly trying to help people. Here's like a quick anecdote about that is like any time that anyone like had something important to them, something cool that they were working on, a new podcast or a new product or something cool that I thought I had built up this newsletter and I had a bit of influence myself because I had these people on my newsletter. I would just reach out, DM them and be like, hey, let me share about your course, or let me share about this cool thing, or let me share XYZ. And I never, ever, ever, it was never like quid pro quo. It was never like, you do this for me and down the line, you're going to help, this type of thing. It was never like that. It was like, I just want to like help people. Right. And I think people really appreciated that. And the surprising, I never thought that this was going to be a side effect of that mentality, was that people felt like the least they could do was like recommend me anytime anyone in their network started having issues with sponsorships. Right. It was like, oh, I'm having issues with, I want to get more deals, or I don't know how much to price this deal, or, I don't know what I'm doing or whatever. And people would just be like, well, there's this guy, Justin, he's like he's the sponsorship guy. Like you should go talk to him. And so that was the really interesting thing that happened about, that happened as a result of this service mindset, I think. And so, I don't know. And this is why, one of the reasons why I decided to write the book. I actually recorded a video. If you're not on my newsletter, you should be on my newsletter, because I share lots of, obviously every Thursday I send you sponsorship opportunities for free every single week. So what are you doing if you're not on the newsletter? creatorwizard.com/join. But I also send you, emails other days of the week about, different videos and articles and things like that about sponsorships. Tomorrow, I'm actually sending out a short video that I filmed around why I decided to write the book. And the cliff notes is that, I had a lot of fear around writing the book initially. Because I basically took a huge amount of insights from my course and put them in the book. And I had fear that early on, before I decided to write it, I was like, I don't know if I could I don't know if I should put all this kind of secret sauce into the book, because if I do, why will people sign up for the course, or why will people, join coaching? And am I going to completely tank this business by doing all that? But then I went back to first principles and I was like, no, it's not about the business. It's about service. And it's about impacting and reaching the most amount of people possible with this message that sponsorships can be incredibly transformative for your life and your business. And to date, I've done very well with the people who are actively having issues with sponsorships. I do really well with that kind of customer persona, that audience persona. But that's 1% of 1% of creators. Sorry, the vast majority of creators are not on this live stream right now, right? I mean, you look at the numbers across it, and of course I love you all, but we're in the low hundreds of people who are here right now. How many people, last tally or whatever, there's 50, 100 million creators out there. So the vast majority of people are not sitting here thinking I want to think about sponsorship strategy. And so here I am, and I feel very mission driven. And I'm I want to reach as many people, as many creators as possible, and help them understand how powerful this stuff can be. What better format, what better distillation of all of the things that I think you need to know about how to create a robust sponsorship strategy? What better content format than a book? And one might argue, I argued this for the first 4 years of the business. I argued that I've got the YouTube channel. That's free. I've got the, newsletter. That's free. I've got the social media. Those things are all free. But the problem with that is that there's no like single YouTube video or single article that would make sense for someone to share it with their friend and be like, hey, go like read this, watch this YouTuber or read this article or whatever. And like, that's going to 100% encapsulate all the things that you would need to know. There's nothing quite like a book. And of course, yeah, the bar is a little bit higher. You're going to have to plop down, $15, $20 or whatever the, price is ultimately going to be. But like, that is, dare I say, that I believe is going to be part of my legacy. That I'm going to be able to say like, hey, give anyone this, like read this book. And like, this is everything I know. This is everything I know about sponsorships. I know it's going to help you. And have faith. This was the big part. Have faith that not only is it going to help more people, but it's actually going to grow the overall market. So yes, you may cannibalize some people who would have, joined the course or done coaching or whatever, but you will now explode your top line of like potential people that you could reach. And there's always going to be a percentage of people who just like, they need help. They're going to be like, yes, I know all this stuff, but like, Justin, what do I do about this specific situation? You wrote the book on this, or so please, can you or your team help me? That's the bet I'm making. I've talked with other authors who have businesses on the back end who have said that, make this bet, Justin. Like it's going to be a good bet. So I don't know. I'm being mission led about this. I'm being service led. And I feel like this is a right decision to make. Anyways, is this crazy? I don't know. I don't know if this is the right move or not, but I honestly, for the last 4 years of this business, I feel as though I've been building the plane as I'm flying it, and so far so good. So, we'll see what happens, I guess. The In-Between says, great newsletter, all go sign up. I appreciate that very much. I really appreciate that. Baldy Rudy says, that's awesome. You're welcome, dude. I love everything you've done. I'm an avid fan of treating this like a business. I appreciate that very much, man. That really means a lot to me. Really appreciate that. All right. I'm going to take a swig. I'm going to scroll through some questions that I may have missed. All right. Let's see here. Cherie says, Justin, I love how you let yourself feel things openly on camera. I totally admire that so much. Cherie, I appreciate that very much. I'm not intentionally doing it. Well, maybe I am. I have just learned that there's no other way that I can be other than this. And this is myself. I'm an emotional person. And I feel like it's kind of dumb to conceal that part of my personality. And I feel like maybe it's helpful for others to hear the struggles, that happen with other. I've had a lot of people message me that say like, similar to what you have said, because I guess from the outside looking in, I have a very successful business to a lot of people. Like, oh man, like, you've got a bunch of followers, a big newsletter, you have coaching, you have courses, you have employees, you have all this. And so the veneer, I could easily have a veneer of like, everything is going awesome. There's no issues ever. I'm kicking ass and taking names. Like, let's go, this type of like vibe that like a lot of people, flex on social media. And I think I for sure fell into that trap maybe early on, mainly because it was a fear that like, if I show any weakness, if I show any sign that I maybe don't know what I'm doing, or I maybe am unsure about the decisions I'm making in the business, or I may be unsure about whether this is going to work or not, if I show any signs of that, people won't want to hire me. People won't want to join my course because they'd be like, this guy doesn't have it all figured out. Why am I going to pay him money if he doesn't even know what he's doing? That was what was in my brain for a long time. But when I sat and thought about like the people that I admire the most and the people that I trust the most is the people who share the ups and the downs, the people who share like the crappy as well as the good. And somehow that just feels more real to me. And so I don't know. That's why I think I maybe let myself go there oftentimes, because this is just, I don't know, this is real. This is me. And I'm going to tell you about how, tough it is to like, juggle this creator stuff with being a dad to young kids and being a husband and, trying to, be as involved in my kids' life as much as possible and still take my wife out on date nights or date lunches really when our kids are at school. And how hard it is to reckon with the guilt that I feel having professional aspirations when that may take away time from being with my kids. Anyone feel this one? I feel this one a lot. It's a persistent, it's a pervasive one where it's like, I could be like, my kids got home from school and I like, gotta, finish up an email, or I gotta do something. I'm on a live stream, or I gotta, my book's trying to be published, or the courses, or, whatever. And that's all time that I could potentially spend with them, or, I would say I definitely like lean, more heavily on, like very much maximizing time with my kids because I'm like aware of this stuff, but like, holy cow, the guilt that you feel, having aspirations, how dare we have aspirations as adults that are separate from being parents? Holy cow, that's a heavy one. Yeah, I don't know. Can anyone validate me here so I don't feel like so alone in this? But I don't know. Anyone who's parents, like I absolutely, I feel that. GGTV says, I didn't know about the book. Now I'm excited. I got to know you from Creator Science and was hoping for all the sauce compiled. Holy cow, let's go. GGTV, sponsor magnet, sponsormagnet.com. It's coming out January 21st. This is a great example. Can I just be real quick, share an anecdote here? Most people have no idea what you're working on. Most people have absolutely no idea what's going on in your universe because there's so many like places to point your attention to. There's so many creators out there. There's there's Netflix, there's the social feed, there's personal lives. Like people just have so much going on. And so if you think, I have probably talked about my book 100 times in the last, 6 months, but GGTV right here had no idea I was writing a book. And so this is why I always say you have to be your own advocate. People don't know what's going on in your world. Heck, like people may have joined this live stream 50 seconds ago and had no idea what I was talking about for the first, 47 minutes of this. They had no idea. And so you have to be a broken record. If you don't do it, no one's going to do it. Okay. So there we go. GGTV. Did I just convert you? Are you going to go sign up for the wait list? Sponsormagnet.com. There we go. The Falcon Eats says on Instagram, I'm a dad here, feeling all the same things. LA Love 1010 says, not a parent, but I get it. Yeah. So yeah, GGTV says, I feel you, Justin. Rudy says, I'm a dad as well. As a guy that's had a business for 15 years, I get it. Yeah, dude, it's hard. It's super hard to balance this stuff. It really is. All right. Okay. We talked about a lot of good stuff. If you tuned in late and, we had the beginning part of the stream was all about preparing for your 2025 brand deal strategy. You can go back and watch the replay if you want to catch that on YouTube afterwards. But right now I want to answer some questions all around sponsorship strategy. I see a question here. Let me scroll back up here. Okay. Angry Owl Outdoors. Hey, Justin, a realty. Good to see you, by the way. Hey, Justin, a realty company who runs a website for people interested in moving to Idaho. They asked if they could feature my outdoor videos in the outdoors section. Do it for exposure. Can I ask for pay? So, I think it really just depends on what you are hoping to get out of a collaboration like this. There's a couple tells, I think, that they're giving you by reaching out to you about this type of thing. Number one, they do not have the capability, probably, I'm just making an assumption here, they do not have the ability to create this type of content to add to their website. If they did, they would be doing it on their own. And so instead of that, they have decided on a curation strategy where they are going out and trying to source content like yours to make their brand appear better. Let's go back all the way to first principles. Why is this realty company trying to increase their web presence on their blog? Well, it's because they're trying to sell more Idaho real estate, right? And so if you pull it back all the way to that, then okay, we know what probably is one of their chief business objectives is. Okay, so what I would probably do is I would say, hey, would love to hop on a phone call with you. I'm so thrilled to hear that you like my videos. I would love to learn a little bit more about your objectives. It seems like you're thinking more deeply about your content strategy is one of the reasons why you wanted to embed my content. I'm curious if you have identified certain types of content are better at lead generation, right? So for a real estate company, I would imagine that this is one of their primary metrics is that people clicking on their site, they probably have real estate listings on there, but there may be other types of things, other types of search terminology that they're trying to optimize for. So I'm just like totally making this up. I have no idea if this is even a good idea or not, but I know that you focus on outdoors type content. So you could say something like, are there long tail search terms related to people who are looking for, let's say, property that has acreage, property that has, a pasture for livestock, property that has the ability to have RV hookups, or the property. I know you focus on some of that types of stuff. So you could say, hey, I could actually create some custom content for you that is optimized for some of those long tail search terms. Custom to your realty company with your branding on it. I may not even post it on my YouTube channel. Maybe I could post a cut down of it maybe, but really I would create this content for you to put on your website, to put on your YouTube channel, to try to rank, to try to own some of those long tail search terms. You see how intentional we're getting here? And so of course, like as you start to have that conversation with that brand, clearly that's something they're going to have to pay for if you're creating custom content for them. So you potentially just pivoted a very simple ask from their end about exposure into a compensated arrangement potentially, right? But it took you kind of pulling that thread and understanding what's in their mind about why they're asking this for you. That can lead to a much more strategic conversation. And the brilliant part about this is that no one else is asking them these types of questions. No one else is offering to get on a call. No one else is asking about their business objectives. Believe me, they're not, right? And so I go back to this whole kind of, you gotta be a consultant. You're not just a creator. Helping them understand how you can actually move the needle on their business objectives. That's why they're going to pay you. It's not just about for exposure. It's because they're going to pay you for this expertise. Okay? Angry Outdoors says, gold, man. Love how you lay it out. Thank you. It gets me thinking so good. I think so surface level, and I don't peel back the layers like you laid it out. This is it. And you know what? One thing I just want to say here is that I didn't roll out of bed and wake up with these insights. It came from doing hundreds and hundreds of deals and doing thousands through the agency. So I was an idiot when I started this. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was like I learned this stuff over the years of making many mistakes and just getting smarter about this stuff, right? And so, yeah, this is just I just want to anyone who's listening to this and feeling intimidated by this, the types of things that I'm talking about, just take it one step at a time. Just one step at a time. Believe me, especially the good news is, especially if you are like a creator in a very kind of hyper specific niche, you're like a creator and you only talk about like healthcare SaaS, healthcare software tools or something, right? The good news is that a lot of the brands, probably a lot of the companies that you're talking with, they're also as clueless. They don't really know. They're not working with creators. In fact, I'm just about to finalize the edit on a new case study video that I did with an alumni in my Brand Deal Wizard program. Her name is Heidi. She has a business called So Heidi. Her podcast I think is called Fashion Designers Get Paid. So she's a fashion designer, freelance fashion designer. So talk about niche, right? And and she has a podcast all around this topic, YouTube channel. And she mentioned in the case study that the first 3 brands that she collaborated with after going through the program, they had never worked with creators before. I think there's this thought that everyone, oh yeah, every brand has worked with creators. And like, no, there's a lot of startups up there. There's a lot of small to medium-sized companies who are, they have significant revenue. They've never worked with creators before. And so you may be the very first person that they've ever worked with, right? And so I know that there's imposter syndrome if you've never done deals before, but just trust me. You may be the first person to actually educate them on these types of topics, and you can kind of co-create the strategy together. Okay. Angry Owl Outdoors says, by the way, you need cold weather outdoor. If you need cold weather outdoor recs for your new home state, I got you. Holy cow. Yeah, man. I might hit you up for that because, for those of you who didn't hear, I moved from California to Minnesota a couple weeks ago to be closer to my mom and my sister and my niece and my nephew. My kids now get to grow up with their cousins, which is awesome. And so but I've never lived in Minnesota before. I lived in California my whole life. So definitely going to be, I've visited Minnesota countless times, obviously. But yeah, that's definitely a new thing for us. So both my wife and I, definitely going to be a new experience. Placinade, what's going on? Loris tuning in on the Instagram chat. So glad to see you. Your new background is dope. Thank you very much. Hold on now though. This is just the temporary background. I haven't dialed it in the way that I want to. I bought some shelving right there and I didn't like the way it looked, mainly because when there was light on it, it was casting these really bizarre shadows on there. So I'm not happy with it right now, but I appreciate you saying that, trying to dial it in. The other thing that's funny is that this is actually a fireplace right here. And I thought it would be so dope to have kind of like a twinkling, not twinkling, like crackling fireplace right here in the background while I did my live streams and podcast interviews and stuff. I tried it the very first podcast interview and it turned into an absolute furnace in here. It was so hot. And I literally midway through the podcast, I had to turn it off because it was so hot. So that is not going to really work out. The other thing that I'm trying to do is once the book comes out and I get my hands on the very first proof copy, which is 2 to 3 weeks from now, right here, I don't know if you could see, but right here in the frame, I want to have a kind of a pedestal. Oh, I just realized my microphone is going to be in the way here. I guess it's got to be on this side. So right here in the frame, I want to have a little pedestal with my book right here so that you can see it and all that. I'm trying to be thoughtful about the new vibes of the background. So I appreciate that. All right. Let's see here. Probably have time for one more question here. GGTV is asking, any tips on how to generate a list to do outbound and get some calls? So I got 2 low-hanging fruit for you. The first and most obvious one, in my opinion, is to just start following what I call your niche neighbors. Everyone in your niche and your content vertical, follow them and see, hey, are they collaborating with any brands? That should be my short list of brands that I'm going to reach out to, because clearly that brand sees the value in collaborating with creators and influencers. So, especially if that deal went really well with your friend, the very first thing that brand is going to think is, hey, I need to find 20 other creators just like this person to collaborate with. The brand is going to be thrilled that you reached out. Okay. So that's a great low-hanging fruit. The other low-hanging fruit, I think, is to actually do some surveying of your audience to find out, hey, what brands and tools is my audience using and loving right now? One of the things I talk about a lot is doing psychographic research, understanding more about what's keeping your audience up at night. Are they married? Do they have kids? How and when are they interacting with your content? Are there products that they wish that you offered that you don't? Digital products, coaching, courses, if you're even thinking of doing any of those types of things. Are there other people in the industry that they'd love to see you collaborate with, and why? Some of these questions, and then going back, hey, what brands and tools and products and services are you using and loving right now? That can be a short list of the brands that you reach out to. You could say, hey, I've got 35% of my audience who responded that they're already using and loving your tool. You reach out to that brand and you say, hey, I would love to expose your brand to my full audience. You know how much more powerful of a pitch that is than, hey, I have been using and loving your tool for three years. Like, who cares? Everyone says that. No, you're saying I've got proof that my audience wants to hear. This is already a pool of your customers here. You want to be in front of this audience for retention purposes, for further brand awareness, penetration into my audience, you name it. So those two tactics are like an absolute goldmine to create a short list of brands to actually reach out to. Is like, again, these are like brands that are probably would see a lot of value in collaborating with someone like you. So I'm not sure exactly, like what niche you're in, but yeah, GGTV says that's a crazy good idea. We'll ask my audience what they're using. Thanks a lot. Yeah. And I don't know what your primary platform is, but like, if you have, an email list, like what I like to do is like put together just like a very simple Google form or type form or something with these questions. Or if you don't have that, YouTube community post, you can do polls. You can do like one of my clients, Christian Taylor, he will just do single questions on there. So he had this thesis that, his channel is about kind of like online privacy and security and things like that. And he had this thesis that like, you know what? I wonder if my audience is also interested in home security, right? Like if they're interested in like keeping their online privacy and just being secure online, they probably want to like protect their families in real life, right? So he put up a poll asking like, are you interested in home security? 70% of respondents said that they were. So holy cow, this opened up not only a very clear path of brands that he could potentially reach out to and pitch, like Simply Safe or something like that, home alarms and things like that. But he realized, wow, there's a whole new like content strategy that this opens up for me. Now that I realize that my audience is also interested in this kind of parallel topic to my current channel focus, right? So there's a lot of advantages to involving your audience in this type of process. So y'all, we have reached the end of today's live stream. Appreciate you as always. Thank you so much. So many of you tune in each and every week for these live streams, and I appreciate you very much. I hope it's valuable to you. So yeah, I will see you all on the flip side. Get that 2025 brand deal strategy rolling.